operate in truth, right? Operate in truth. Tell the truth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. I'm Daniel, and on this episode, we're going to talk about the Gators' 45-28 win in Starkville this past Saturday. I will say it was a fun time in Starkville. There were a lot more Gators there than probably many would think based on the way we started the year 1 and 2 and how the two losses were not particularly close. But pretty good turnout. Definitely a warm one, and it was interesting at times. The game starts off with 3 straight short drives and punts, and it seems like my prediction of a possible shootout was not going to happen. It's going to be a defensive struggle, and I joked with the guy next to me. I said, man, I thought it could be a shootout, and here we go in the complete opposite direction. Of course, the Gators end up getting their offense rolling. Many times Mississippi State could get it rolling, but then would shoot themselves in the foot and couldn't get it back. Definitely something to talk about when we go over defense. And overall, again, interesting, fun day in Starkville, and then went to Tuscaloosa afterwards to get some food on my way back to Birmingham where I was staying, and ran into Landon, who is the Mississippi State podcaster that we talked to in the Opposing Views. Very good guy. If you're ever curious about Mississippi State football, check out his pod, My Dogs Are Barking. Again, very good guy, very good time as well. With that said, interesting note from the stadium, I would say at least half of the Mississippi State fans left at halftime when that score was 28-14. I don't know if I would have left right then, but hey, they did. And of course, then they end up cutting the lead to 28-21. And at which point I thought, oh crap, this is going to be one of those stories where the home team kind of comes back and it's a big no one should have left yet story. And of course, and we'll talk about this as we go on, but of course we almost throw a pick, end up not throwing a pick, and then few plays later really break the game open. So again, interesting but fun day. Good seeing the Gators win. The best last chance at a win for sure. Definitely still chances going forward, but not anything quite the same as this Mississippi State team that we saw the Gators play on Saturday. Before we talk about the offense, I do want to give a shout out to my friends at Alvarez Lawn Company. Alvarez Lawn Company, if you live in Central Florida, they want to do your lawn projects for you. If you don't want to cut your grass, Alvarez Lawn Company will help you out with that. If you have anything yard related that you would like to talk to them about, give them a call or text for a free quote at 407-490-2617. You can also reach out to them at alvarezlawncompany@gmail.com. Once again, give them a call or text for a free quote at 407-490-2617. Alvarez Lawn Company, building plans that work for you. And we are back. So let's go ahead and talk about the offense, which overall fun day for the offense. Interesting stat that I'm not sure many people have talked about is that we threw 28 passes as an offense, and only 2 of them were incompletions. I kind of hinted at one of those incompletions earlier, which was an almost pick thrown by Graham Mertz, which, had it been picked, probably turns that game around because it was 28-21 at the time, and we were looking to get a double-digit lead back. If that ball is caught on a ball thrown behind the receiver, then Mississippi State has the ball inside the 40, and the way they had just moved the ball on their 2 previous drives, the end of the first half and first one in the second half, we're looking at a game. But the good news is that didn't happen. 2 plays later, possibly the play of the game that did not count at all happened. Of course, that was the throw to Mizell that he took all the way to the house. Unfortunately, due to what is a bad call on Montrell Johnson and a blindside block. The play was called back. And so point is with that, 26 of 28 passing. I don't care who you are. That's a great day. Graham Mertz, 19 of 21, 201 yards, 3 TDs, 0 interceptions. He also added 24 yards on the ground along with a touchdown. And then DJ Lagway, perfect through the air, 7 for 7 for 76 yards, average, 10.9 yards per pass. And he also added 22 yards on the ground on 3 carries, did not have a touchdown. And one of those carries was after Graham Mertz got taken out after a big hit on one of the first drives of the game. So with that said, definitely a good day by the QB. Some fantastic passes, whether it's Graham Mertz pass to Burke for a touchdown, which, speaking of Burke, 4 catches, 45 yards, and that touchdown. But also, last week we talked about only 2 receivers had catches, and we had 3 tight ends making catches. This week, 10 Gators caught passes. Marcus Burke led the way with 4, but then we have Badger and DK with 3. Oh, and I stand corrected. Mazzell, due to all the yards that were called back, had 2 big plays that were called back. One because his elbow hit down and was the correct play, but still brilliant running from him to get into the end zone after that. But then 2, of course, we talked about that blindside block, and I'll say more about that in just a second. But he had 5 catches to go with other players that caught passes. Again, 3 tight ends, Boardingham, Hanson, Livingston, all had catches. TJ Abrams comes in, true freshman, gets 1 catch for 3 yards on a pop pass. Jacoby Jackson gets 27 yards on 2 catches. So lots of guys catching the ball. Again, 10 Gators catching. That's not really too much that we've seen this year, is the ball being spread out like that. And of course it worked against this Mississippi State defense. And then on the ground, Montrell Johnson, 15 carries for 68 yards. And then Jaden Baugh, 4 carries, 53 yards, average of 13 yards per carry. That is terrific. Trown Webb, 8 for 41. I mean, lots of guys averaging 4+ yards a carry. Even Mertz and Lagway averaged over 7 yards per carry. What can I say? It's a good day. Of course, Jacoby Jackson also 3 carries for 18, average of 6 yards per carry. Really, this is what we want to see from the offense. Now, it is Mississippi State. This is not a good Mississippi State team, but again, it's an SEC team and something for at least us to be happy about, since this was a game where I thought it could have been a shootout and could go either way. To see it for the most part not be nerve-wracking was good. To address that penalty, that cost a very nice catch and run for a touchdown by Mazzell. I'm sitting there in the stands. I say to Montrez next to me, I say, man, I think they're reviewing for targeting, because they hadn't called the call yet, but I saw the flag come out immediately. And from our angle, and again, this is not a TV angle, this is sitting in the stands, you just see the dude's head fly back. And I'm like, oh, crud, because it looked like he got him high, which he did, but it wasn't helmet to helmet. It was just through his shoulder, kind of threw him. Clean hit, but from our angle, looked weird. And I'm like, oh, of course, we're going to have it come back. And of course, then they called hit. That saying it afterwards is really ridiculous. But with that said, Aiden Mizell coming in, playing well, and really, I don't know if this was the purpose, but really making people ask questions about why we've not seen him more so far this season. Clearly, he's a guy who was looking for space to utilize his speed. He is one of the fastest guys on the team. He can take a ball and go. I can only imagine if you had a receiving core with a healthy Trey Wilson and an Aiden Mizell and, an Elijah Badger and Kamir DK, why they're not being all utilized together and making the defense pick their poison. I mean, we can beat a lot of things to death about what's good or bad about this offense, But I would say use of personnel is really interesting here. Plus, I know Billy Napier loves 12 personnel. For those that don't know what 12 personnel is, that's 1 running back and 2 tight ends, which leaves you with 2 receivers. But he also likes to play tight formations, which means really narrow as far as the width. When you do that, you bring the defense really clustered all in, and doesn't help your running backs because there's a ton of people around the box, but also you're not utilizing your speed up to their max ability or the optimal thing. When you could have, I just mentioned a bunch of these speedy receivers, you could have them spread out, and now it's a one-on-one in space, kind of who's faster, but also can you beat that DB? And I bet you if you start going 3-4 and you go wide deep, yeah, not only are you going to beat that DB, but there's going to be room opened up for the run game. So it's one of those things that it's great to see Mazzell play more, and do really well. And again, both his touchdowns that were called back, the one rightly, the one wrongly, while he's running, it is fantastic and shows a lot of ability and really a lot of excitement. I had a lot of excitement watching it, and I hope to see more of that from him in the future. But I think an offset is we got so much talent. Why aren't we seeing more when we go up against, some of these better defenses? Or why are we not seeing some of this utilized? Of course, last week there's talk of how former walk-on Spirito got reps, and now it's why did he get reps over Mazzell? He didn't really get too many reps, if at all, this week, and that's not something I want to really dig on, but it was interesting to see that. To see that change, I guess, is really what I'm going for there, to go from 1 week here to now we're playing a dynamic playmaker. So with that said, offense, good, 277 yards passing, over 200 yards rushing. I talked about, in the preview, hey, if we can run, it'll help everything else. And of course, we were able to run. I wasn't sure if we'd be able to, since, we had let a bad Texas A&M run defense stuff us the week before, but we were able to get it done in Starkville. I can only imagine what that place is like when they're actually good and people are staying and they've got a full stadium doing cowbells, but we didn't face that. And I think that did help out our offense a lot. And so, hey, I will gladly take it. Definitely taking a W in the SEC. Well, with that said, it's time to switch over to defense. But before we do, I do want to give a shout out to my friends over at GatorChatter.com. GatorChatter.com is a Florida Gator message board and home of a lot of great Gator discussion. I know people like to discuss the Gators on Facebook, Twitter, wherever. I will say this about message boards is you generally have everything under one topic and everyone can converse rather than 50 of the same messages going in the same Florida Gators Facebook group or everyone just shooting a shotgun blast all over X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, of we're talking about this or that. Hey, come join people in discussion all under one topic, and lots of good discussion and information going on right now at GatorChatter.com. Go ahead and give them a look. GatorChatter.com, your Florida Gator sports bar. So the defense, we'll just say defense was not good. Yet again, gave up 240 yards on the ground to the Mississippi State Bulldogs and 240 yards through the air to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. At least we're consistent on the amount we gave up to each side. Of course, I say that a little bit in jest because, of course, we don't want to be giving up 480 yards in a game, but here we are. And I will say at times this game looked like it could be the shootout that I thought it would be. And at times we couldn't. I referenced this a little bit in the intro. And if you go back and you look through some of Mississippi State's drives, what you're going to see is when they could get that no huddle going and there wasn't stoppages, whether it was the referees just stopping for, whatever, which sometimes did happen, or it was the referees, calling a penalty, sometimes on Mississippi State and a few times on us. It would throw off that hurry up offense. And once that was thrown off, our defense was able to hold. But the problem was in that hurry up, when they're in that go, go, go mode, they couldn't be stopped. And we saw that in the first touchdown drive they have. The next drive that they had, they weren't able to do too much, and they had a holding penalty. Well, then they had another one after we scored a touchdown. And luckily that was after a fumble. They got a holding penalty and that stopped them. Then we scored a touchdown, go up 14-7, and didn't get anything from there. But then when we go up 21-7, they start moving the ball. They get inside our 30 and they get a holding call. And they get that holding call and it just throws them off. And again, end up punting due to that. And so in many ways, our best defense at times were the officials and Mississippi State's own offense just making mistakes. And that's unfortunate. Now, there are times we did see some good play. A good thing that we haven't seen too much of is we got 3 sacks and actually broke up 6 passes. So good day in that regards. Jason Marshall did not allow a completion, which is a good thing, of course, because overall, he is our best corner. I've said before, I think being on these bad defenses, unfortunately, has made people think a little less of him than he deserves to have that thought about. But again, coming in, did really well, targeted 3 times, gave up 0 receptions. Can't ask for more from a corner. And then several other players doing really well. Bridges, 10 tackles. Sharif Denson had a really nice sack, forced a fumble. And coming in, and I said, again, things I said to Montrez next to me. I was like, when he came in, he thought it was maybe Shamar. I go, no, that was definitely Denson on a blitz. And Denson saw the ball available, slapped the ball. And that's what you want to see from defenders. So there were some definite good games by people out there. And I do want to shout those out. Jaden Robinson, according to PFS, in his 38 snaps, had the second highest behind Pup Howard. Pup Howard having a great game, highest rated Gator on the defense. So definitely there are some bright spots this year, like Pup Howard, Sharif Denson. And then, of course, there are things that we just do schematically that hurt us. This afternoon, at the time of this recording, Gator Nation Football Podcast put out another, short yardage situation. I think it was a short 3rd and short. And of course, again, Florida having 6 men in the box on their breakdown. And it's like, yeah, I don't know what we're doing. 6 on 8, I think, is what it was in that. And it's just the epitome of, okay, this is not working. Ron Roberts, who many, including myself, had hopes for coming in and helping what was a pretty good system where players are messing up, and it's turned into a system where it's not fresh mistakes or missed tackles that are killing us. It's literally things like playing the numbers 6 defenders on 8 offensive personnel. And that's definitely not good. And that, again, possibly the best defender at times for Florida was the officials. Now, again, they had some BS calls on Florida. I'm not arguing that they're great, but again, getting those holding calls stopped several drives for the Bulldogs when they were going, and it could have made a game. I do want to say the Gators getting the goal line stop after they got 1st and 10 inside the 5. Definitely a good thing. I mean, 1st and goal at the 3, and that was after having 1st and goal at the 15 and 4th and 3. Phantom, I would say, pass interference penalty against Sharif Denson, but of course they come down, flip sides of the field, so it was right in front of us when we got this. Mostly Gator fans when we got the stop, because at that point it was 35-21. If they get that touchdown, it becomes 35-28. You still have the hope. You still have anything could happen if we don't score on the next drive. Maybe it gets tied up again. There's just some of that with how our defense was. You never knew. Granted, I should say that Florida, after that punt, 3 and out to begin the second half, scored a touch on every drive except for when they kicked a field goal near the end of the game. But scored on every drive after that, at least, and scored on most drives after the game began, other than when we fumbled it and the one coming out of halftime. So things you want to see on offense, defense, you also let Mississippi State, here's their drive chart in the second half: touchdown, fumble, and that's the one at the goal line because they fumbled on that 4th down, touchdown, and then end of game, which again, that end of game was another time they had 1st and goal inside the 4. With that said, very, 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 very interesting day, as I've said many times. But it was a game where we could at least celebrate winning in the SEC, get a second win for the year. There's no certainty going forward. Our run defense allowing 240 games is concerning, as we face 2 of the top, if not the 2 top rushing offenses in the NCAA after this bye week. Hopefully we use the bye week to get better with some of this, but UCF is one of the top 2, Tennessee's one of the top 2, and then comes Kentucky, who last year with Ray Davis ran it all over us, didn't need Devin Leary to do anything. And then after that bye week, and then comes Trevor Etienne and the Georgia Bulldogs. And then after that, well, we'll see if Quinn Ewers is back. If not, Arch Manning. Who knows? They may just say, Arch, we're not going to risk you. Let's see what we can do with, former Gator commit at running back, Gibson. Let's see. Definitely you can take a lot of good things. I mean, again, 26-28, that's good. You can passing. That's phenomenal. We scored on most of our drives. Again, good takeaway. But you also have to acknowledge the flip side of we gave up 480 yards to a team that the week before got blown out by Toledo, a home team that most of their fans left at halftime. I would say 90% of the student section was gone at halftime. It was bad. It was really bad. So it wasn't even a home field advantage at that point. I would argue pretty much that Florida fans were close to the number of Mississippi State fans were there. But again, celebrate the win, acknowledge the things that hopefully get fixed during the bye week, or you should at least work on in the bye week. And you know what? We've said it before. We'll say it again. It's going to be an interesting season, but sometimes you got to go through hard times to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. With that said, everybody, thank you for listening. And as always, go Gators.